Hi, Cecile here from La Petite Creme.
Hi, this is Fanny.
Welcome everyone. Hi, welcome to our Mom's Talk episode number 4.
Yeah, already.
I know. So we are on episode number 4 and we are happy to welcome the first people to join. Hello everyone. Hello, welcome. And we're gonna introduce our favorite pediatrician, Dr. Perlman. So let's get her in right now. Hugs and kisses. Hi, hi everyone. I wave at you all. We're so happy you're here.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
how are
Good
you?
morning.
Morning. Oh, let
Welcome,
me adjust
welcome.
myself. Oh, look at this way.
You were good. You were good.
Yeah.
Good morning. We were just introducing ourselves quickly. So again, I'm Cecile from La Petite Creme,
I'm Fanny.
and we're happy to welcome you, Dr. Perlman. Do you want to
Hi.
give a little intro about who you are?
Yes, I'm Dr. Perlman. I'm a pediatrician and practiced for about 25 years. And now I work as a holistic health coach in New York and Florida. So I do visits virtually, and it's just a wonderful time to support parents and unravel whatever stuff we've got going so we can be the best parents and people for ourselves as possible. So that's the kind of work that I do. And I've really
Wonderful.
enjoyed it.
And we really appreciate having you with us today again for episode number 4 of our Mom's Talk series. So we're so happy that we are getting this on track. And we have a few more people that just joined. So why don't we go ahead and jump into today's topic, which seems to have got a lot of traction because we have a lot of people joining. We want to talk about how to get ready for the arrival of baby.
Yeah.
So we're mothers. Fanny is a mother of 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Of 2. Yeah.
And I am a mother of 2, and you are a mother of 2. So we're a
Yes.
happy group of mothers of 2.
Yes.
So we already been prepared for baby.
Yeah, so were we really prepared though? Are you ever like completely
Yes.
prepared?
Never.
No, you think you are. Like, you get a lot of stuff, but after you get a baby, you are like, I should review that list.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason why we got this topic together today is to give a different look about how to prepare for baby. So you mentioned the stuff like the registry, the material thing that we need, but what we wanted to do this conversation about is the thing that you don't see. So how do you prepare mentally, physically, emotionally for your baby, and what is the place of stuff in that whole equation?
So I think that, as you were saying, I mean, like we all, all parents will say, like, you just never prepare. Like, in life you try to prepare, but you just never prepare. And I think that, I think the easy stuff, the low-lying fruit is the stuff, right? The physical stuff. Okay, so let's do that first, if you don't mind, just to get that out of the way, right? Let's just go the basic stuff, because I do think sometimes the stuff in themselves can kind of give you, can kind of represent the emotional, right? So it can kind of go along the way, right? So let's kind of be deliberate about this. I mean, there's obviously physically, how do you create space in your environment, right? So whether it be a room, right? Whether it be, a bassinet, just basics. And I think that people try to kind of like, they get overwhelmed and they're like, I want to make the perfect, baby and child room for my child. Yeah, I mean, you can do a little paint, you can do a couple things, but in the end of the day, it's like this being just wants to be with you. Like, literally, it doesn't care like what color is on the walls. And I mean, like, you don't stress yourself out about that. Like, you just kind of put together, what feels right, like what seems on a practical basis, because those few weeks, those few months, they go by fast. And, it's that kind of thing where you just need a space that is soothing, that is convenient, right? Because you'll be in and out of that that room and getting things, everything to be as kind of streamlined
So,
as
so
possible.
you're bringing a very valid point, is those words of convenience,
Yes.
And efficiency. It feels like, my personal experience, I felt like having a baby was that loop, that cycle of doing the same thing over and over again, because that's, they eat, they poop, you know, they sleep, they eat, they poop, they sleep. So that component of efficiency, looking back, was very, very important.
Yes.
One item that just popped into my mind is the changing table. You read online that, oh, you can just change a baby on your couch. You know, you're going to be changing like 2,500 diapers within the first, year. So you don't want to be doing that 2,000 times on the couch.
Right.
If you know
your back,
it's like a working station for you.
It is.
So you have to make it at a good level, like good height level, which is not the same for you and your partner. Something where you have space around. And sometimes we overlook that for the pretty, because practical is not what the company tells you, is what fits for you. So practical for you is, are you right-handed, left-handed? Like, you practice doing something 2,000 times. Again, 2,500 times you're going to be changing a diaper. So that's one of the things that to be mindful about, right? Efficiency.
Well, I mean, people like, some of the changing tables come with like straps for the baby, but also sometimes you have to be able to put something so that you can hold your hand on the baby and reach and grab it and bring it. Does that make sense? Like, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be like, but this is like a working environment. Like, I mean, it's literally a working environment. So like, don't distract yourself with like having 5 different things, 6 different, everything like cluttered where you can't find things. Like, literally you need to have things so that like you could close your eyes in the middle of the night and you could do it without even opening your eyes. I mean, that's very literal, because you're going to be doing that.
That's going to happen. You're going to change the diaper when you are still sleeping.
Right.
That's
like, they have so much stuff that they sell these days. I remember my husband being infuriated because they were selling like, white warmers for your car. And he's like, what is this scenario? Like, what are you talking about? And in the first one, you buy all the stuff because you think that you need all this stuff. They really sell it to you. But the second kid, you're like, I want the basics. Give me the basics, And that's why your product is fun, right? Because it kind of tries to boil it down to the most basic, efficient space. And I've talked about it before, this whole thing of, it is what it is, but this whole element of performative parenting, where it's like, the more that I have, the better prepared I am. And I find that actually to not be the case. Like, the key is to declutter your life, declutter, like, what's around you as much as you can, because in the end of the day, like, you need clarity. Like, you need to have all the energy that you face in the world to be like, eat, sleep, stress. Like, you want to kind of, I was going to say poop, because basically there's a lot of poop going on, but just try to simplify everything is really important, because it will give you peace of mind when you're sleep deprived and you're tired and you're just going to look around like, oh my God, I have all this crap and I don't even know what I'm doing with it. Like, I don't want you to get to that point.
But that's difficult. Like, when you're pregnant and you're nesting and you have that feeling of that you want to kind of fill the space preemptively, like you want to just be like, oh, I want to fill it, because so what you're saying is like, make room. And if you have nothing to sort, nothing in the room, nothing in your head, it's actually better, because then it's more room for the baby to fill, right?
Yes. And to be able to be a little bit more kind of like in touch with like, what things do I need to go to the store that I need? Not that like everyone tells me I have to have there, but like, if you're like, oh, in the middle of the night, I actually needed this cart. Okay, you go out and you buy the cart because you needed it that day. But don't try to anticipate, oh, I'm going to have 10 different carts, for maybe you didn't need 10 different carts, but let it kind of just boil it down to the basics, because, you just, again, a cluttered room is not, it may seem like, oh, it's warm and friendly, but a cluttered room becomes a dirty room very quickly.
Yeah.
One of the things people always say when they have children, and I still say it when my college kids visit me, right? It's like, how much crap do you have? Like, how much crap? You know, you look at one day and you're like, you know, all of that clutter like became like just like all that stuff, the decorative elements, you know, became clutter very quickly. And so
it's noise to your, it's and it's overstimulating because you have to look at things, you have to touch things, you have to, it's just bringing all of your senses in turmoil, right?
And so, you know, I like how, you know, when we talk about the physical, right, it kind of alludes to kind of the mindset I want you to have. And, you know, we talk so much. One of the things I remember when we were talking about making this talk, right, or doing these talks in general, there was a lot of us wanting caretakers, you know, people with children to hear their own voice. And if you learn anything, you know, when they're 1 year old, when they're 5 years old, when they're 15, when they're 20, right, is that the stronger you are to your own intuition, the more connected you are to your own intuition and your own kind of sense of what would work for your kid, the more accurate you are as a parent, you know, the more present you are as a parent. What that means is that you got to clean the clutter, whether it be a physical clutter, right? Emotional clutter, you got to declutter everything because it's just too much. You cannot process all of that, you know? And I think that when, you know, it's funny because I would do a lot of like, you're about to have a baby, let me meet the pediatrician talks, right? And, you know, people would come in, what books should I read? My baby's due in 2 weeks. Give me like 5 books so I can read them, like almost like cramming. You're cramming to have a baby. I don't know, that doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. And they're like, tell me what to buy. Tell me all these things. And I would be like, take a walk. Like take a walk. Just spend these last couple of weeks like really being present as much as you can, like get good food, right? Have people around you. I know I hate to call people clutter, but when your house is full of people and neighbors and all these other people, like your head is full of all of that. Like declutter like what's around, because you know the parents honestly that come into the birth and they're like, I have this, you know, oil for this, I have this song for this, I have this, and they're just like trying to control like every minute of their labor and everything. And I take a pause because I don't want to like scare people, but I was like, in my experience, the ones that walk into like the whole birthing process, like, like they kind of shake their shoulders. They're like, let's see how it rolls. Like they're just kind of open to like what's going to happen. The baby literally pops out, like literally just, it just plops out, right? But the ones who are like, oh my God, this didn't happen when it was supposed to happen. And they're just so stressed out. You know, you're basically telling your body like something is wrong, right? And nothing's wrong. Like you're fine. Like, you know, the contractions didn't start exactly when you thought, but you know what? It's not your show. Like this is like, you know, there's a whole Mother Earth thing going on. Like this is not really about you, you know? And, you know, the sooner that you can almost release that sense of like that need for control, everything, you know, the baby appears, right?
Can we state then letting go of control and adding space and adding room and adding moments where you do nothing is actually what you need to add on your registry, like space and emptiness and you know the cards of like congratulation more than actually something that is physical and take room. Because it feels like instead of removing stuff, we talked about that when we talked about picky eating back a few episodes ago. That sometimes removing stuff is hard. It's easier if you add things that you know kind of balance it out. So maybe adding blanks, right? Adding space, adding room, adding emptiness would be a good way to prepare.
It's interesting, and I'm glad that you kind of like talked about it in a very concrete mind. For all of us, we need to schedule in moments of nothing.
Yeah, and I mean,
you know,
for the people who are like needs to fill with something, my advice would be to fill your freezer with food.
Yes.
I totally change the topic, but you know, if you really want to do something and have the impression that you are active and you are doing something to prepare for your baby, prepare something for you. Because
I agree.
You are nesting, so you need to have the impression that you're doing something, but you're gonna be in this nest when the baby is here, and you're gonna feed this baby. You are not gonna sleep. But you need to eat, because if mom don't eat, if mom doesn't function, baby doesn't function. So that's the best advice. I think that my 100% advice, in your registry, put Uber Eats, gift card, put Grub-Up, like anything that when you are so tired and you just want to do nothing, just take your gift card and order food, because you will need food, and you need comfort food, like not a salad and something you can just grab on your fridge, because nobody wants that. You just want comfort food, like you are vulnerable, you are tired, well, I mean, you just want to eat something good. So that would be my best advice. If you need to feel a little bit of that space because you are anxious and you have the sensation that you have to be active, just freeze some food, like do some lasagna, or I don't know, like comfort food.
Cook.
That you will be so glad. Put a note on your lasagna and say, you're doing a great job.
I mean, literally, when you were saying that, because you are right, you're nesting, you feel like you have to prepare something. You, like, you know, even just wanting, you're like, I have to do the top, because I need to kind of, like, in the end of the day, like you said, the only thing I need, like, your house to be bursting at the seams in, and you will never have enough of, is food. When you are trying to breastfeed, but even if you're not breastfeeding, like, literally, your healing comes from protein. It comes from fat. It comes from fluid. Like, it doesn't come from, like, I grabbed a handful of nuts and, like, you know, a cracker. Like that. That's just nothing. You can't heal. You don't make milk. I mean, and in so many ways I would have, you know, I would see moms day 3, day 5, right? Like, they just literally came home with the baby and they're breastfeeding and it's going not so great and they're a little frustrated and it's 4 o'clock, right? Like, say that they're a 4 o'clock appointment. What did you eat today? It's literally, like, you know, I mean, you guys know, I've seen you at that stage, right? Like, what did you eat today? Like, you get busted really fast in my office, right? And they're like, what did you eat? And they're like, I had a smoothie at about 9. Like, literally, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, and I've been so busy, and it's fascinating. They'll say, but I've been so busy feeding the baby all day. If you had eaten every 2 hours a nice bowl of soup, right? Like a piece of something with rice, like, you know, eating something every 2 hours, you wouldn't need to feed the baby and keep the baby, because the baby's smart. The baby's like, I don't know what the hell's going on right now, right? I need to get my food. I'm just gonna, like, stay attached and, like, hope for the best, like because hopefully, like, you know, the delivery will come, you know. And here you are, you're like, but I'm so stuck. I would always talk about it. I always joke that, you know, I should go on Shark Tank for this, right? I literally, like, you need to have, like, and again, talking about what do you have, where you would sit to feed the baby, you need to have a whole cart, like a whole, like, even if you had like a refrigerator there, like, or you had like a basket, and literally, so that you can literally feed the baby and eat at the same time. I was joking.
And drink water. And drink fluids.
Right? I mean, they have those, like, backpacks, like, that they.
The camera bag.
I like the visual of, like, the hat with the beer. You know, the people pour the beer, and I'm like, put broth in there. Maybe, you know, hopefully broth. But, like, you know, literally sit there and, you know, in Chinese custom, they actually kidnap the mom and the baby. They sit them down in the corner. They literally spoon feed the mom broth the entire day, and just let her sit and just breastfeed the baby.
So back to the analogy on food is the same for the brain, right? Like, it feels like a lot of that nesting time, then can we apply that same thing to make space in your brain? Because you're right, you're trying to control and anticipate anything about your baby, and if it's your first baby, you don't know how the baby is going to sleep, how the one thing you know is yourself. So you know what you eat, you know what you like, you know how you like to sleep, you know, like, how many times you go to the bathroom, you know, like, So
Yes.
anticipate what your needs are going to be
First.
because these are not going to change. You become a mother, you still need to, you know, still need to sleep, you still need to eat,
and
you still need to
you can't really
relax.
control. The thing that like all of us at multiple stages of raising kids is that what is the one message, right? That is like literally like pounded in your head over and over is that you don't control anything. I mean, and especially with what's going to happen with your kids. Like we do the best we can, right? But you can't control. So what they say, right? You control the things that you know you can control, and the things that you can't control, you let go, right? So there's certain things that, listen, all of our babies have like a certain path of journey of what needs to happen. But the one thing you control is what food goes in your mouth. You can control that. You actually can control that. So do the best you can, right? With that, that's the whole idea. And this is going to come up over and over again when you're raising children, right? They always say like, put the mask on yourself right before you put it on your loved one, right? Because if you pass out, right, you're not any use to that kid, right? But I'm going to say, that's why I do what I do in terms of like working with parents, because I saw over and over again, the kids are really resilient, but the parents, if we don't take care of ourselves on so many levels, we cannot be present for them. It just doesn't work. Do the math. You need to be present for yourself before you can be present for them.
So on that note, just to finish on the material stuff that you need. So we said, okay, diaper, like, changing because poop is going to come. That's a poop and pee, So that's a given. So we need something to tackle that and to make something practical, whatever is practical for you, not the universal.
Have to be pretty.
Sorry, not pretty, just efficient. Efficient. What are the other things that are must have for babies? So like I would assume sleeping, eating, and getting them home, right?
Yeah, just I mean, listen, everyone, there's so many choices now, so I know that they're incredibly overwhelming. You go to Babies R Us or they don't really have those much anymore, but any of these stores, and it's so like, obviously everyone has preferences in terms of carriages and like basic, like you can even play it on your head. Like, the baby has to like come home in something, like, what do I have? The baby has to be, kind of pushed around in something. What do we have? Right? Like make it very simple, like day to day, having the cart, like, from a medical standpoint, I love having, in terms of figuring out how to bathe the baby, right? In terms of what you need to, I like to put some emollient on the skin when they come out. So whether that be coconut oil, like, we always talk about, your product works with a lot of oils that, as opposed to like creams that we don't know what a lot of the additives are, right? So to try to simplify, like people would sometimes say, don't put something on your skin that you couldn't eat, So we talk a little bit about that concept, right? I am a big fan of salt water, like the saline sprays. I think can sometimes be something that, like, again, not having to shove it up or suck it out but just like sprinkling it, trying to kind of like keep them a little bit, moist there. A thermometer, both like the fancy ones, which, I see fancy ones, but like the ones that go on the head, they're not that accurate, but just kind of like screening thermometers, but also a rectal thermometer with some lubrication in case you have a fever. Again, undress the baby entirely, make sure that, they're not overdressed before you take the temperature, above 100.4.
I have a comment about that because we're from France. Rectal temperature is the way we grew up with and that everybody has. We find that here in the US, it's something a little taboo.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the product that we do, our diapering lotion, works great as a lubricant because it is oily and it's happened to be right there by your changing table. But why is it that it's not something as common here? Because it seems to be so much more accurate.
Because Americans get weird about stuff. I mean, they're like, it's going to go inside him. How far will I hurt? And honestly, it's like, think about how big their poop is when it comes out. I mean, it's literally it's not even the size. The rectal thermometers are not even the size of your finger. I mean, it's really, and I'm not saying, shove the whole thing, but like with the digital ones, it's so fast. And literally, it's just the tip that goes in, you lubricate, and it's the only, like, if you ever called your doctor and said, my kid has a fever, especially when they're like in the first 3 months or so, the first thing they'll say is like, what's the rectal thermometer? Like, you can say, they're like, tell me what the rectal, temperature is. That's all they want to hear. Sometimes we'll just like hang up and be like, call me back when you get the rectal temperature, because anything else just doesn't work. It just isn't accurate. So I think
that's good to hear, because the social media and everything makes you feel like you need the thing on the forehead, right? Which is
but it's so inaccurate that I'm like, okay, it tells you something, but I don't even know what it really tells you. So
back to basics again. Just the old time good, thing that has been proven to work for you.
I'm not saying the mercury. I'm not telling you about the mercury. I don't even know if they even sell those anymore. I'm not telling you those. The digital ones work just fine. And until they're obviously old enough, they can hold it under the tongue. There is that in between. Like, it's hard to do a rectal thermometer on a 1-year-old. Like, that's, but it's a kind of thing where, like, in the first couple months, those are very helpful.
Okay.
And then I think that, I think the food thing, obviously, are you going to use bottles, and like, do you need to order like certain organic formulas, and like having that space there, because some of the organic formulas take a little while to kind of like, kind of have some of that prepared. Even if you're breastfeeding, just have it there, whatever bottles, it's, I'm not saying you're going to necessarily use them. Don't go crazy with it, but it is hard to get out when you're, the great thing about ordering online these days is like, it's like nothing, right?
Exactly.
So I feel like a lot of those concerns are not, but it's 1 or 2 days, so if you're going through something, I think that, again, but just going back to the basics. So those, this is it. Like, people have like, I have this one person that I kind of follow on social media a little bit, and literally her baby has not been born yet. She has clothing like in base baskets for the baby until they're 5 years old. Like, she literally shows she's bought a whole year's worth, of clothing, and she has a closet. Like, that's all. And I look at that and I feel anxious. Like, I already feel anxious. I don't even know what I'm anxious about. Like, but it's a kind of thing where, like, just allow some space for you to feel like, okay, do I need this or not? Right? Like, and to really make those decisions and not feel kind of like bullied into like getting all this clutter all over your house that like you're just like, I don't even know. But I agree with you. If I could ask you for anything, maybe you need another freezer. Like, literally, like, I want your house to have so much food, right? That literally, like, it's just like, even making like things of broth yourself, or like even buying a bunch of the broth so that like all the food is within like arm's reach, I think is really, fantastic. I think it's interesting, you actually brought up like a Grubhub, like, coupon or something. That's an incredible gift, I think, because
that's the best to put on your registry.
Right?
And I'm so sad I didn't put any on mine. Like, I was so dumb. I was like, shoot.
You need to do another baby.
No.
It's because sometimes, you might feel like, oh, I feel really bad about, getting food delivery, like this and this. And then you're like, I guess I won't eat. It's like a circular weird thing. But if you have a gift card, you're like, oh, I guess I'll, use the gift card.
Another thing maybe also that in this phase of preparing is also getting all your apps and all those accounts set up prior to baby arriving. That's something practical you can do. Do all your sign up, put your credit card, put your password somewhere, share it with your spouse, share it with your friends and your family members. So when they text you and you're like, oh, I need food, they have access, they have your address pre-populated, all that stuff, because that's something practical you can start doing today. That's going to fill your time and feel that need for nesting. And become really practical down the road, because it's going to be easier to text, your mom and say, Mom, I need this food. Everything is already set up. You don't have to be on the phone with her and be like, oh, put your credit card, click here, do that. So all of those preset your Amazon, where you can scan everything, that code scanning, so you can reorder everything in your house by just scanning it, which is like crazy, but it works. So all those stuff, so that you're, again, efficient. You're efficient because you're going to be doing things a lot with very little brain power sometimes. Because it's,
listen, sleep deprivation is very real. It is, they have this, I don't know why I know it, so I'm just going to but they have torture research that they released, you know, and they were like, literally, like if you have less than 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep, you start to go clinically insane. Like you start to kind of, things get kind of loopy, you know? And so, you know, the truth is that they, you know, babies are kind of like jet lag when they first come, you know? And so night and day doesn't always make a lot of sense. So being able to like try to discipline yourself so that during the daytime, you know, you wake them up gently every 2 hours, trying to feed them. And then at night, you know, they can sleep like, you know, 3 to 4 hours. You know, if you let them, don't wake them up at night, you know, if you can avoid it, because, you know, and then once they reach their birth weight, which is usually at about 2 weeks, I'm like, don't even touch them at night. Like, don't wake them up at all. But the night and day is tough, because if they sleep, like I remember, I mean, listen, you know, we all, not that I'm planning to have another kid to right my wrongs, but literally, like, you know, we had my in-laws staying with me. I had all kinds of visitors. So everybody was really happy to hold a sleeping baby. So you look up and all of a sudden your baby has slept for 6 hours in the middle of the day. And sure enough, we'd be getting ready to go upstairs, and literally like, boom, like the one eye, we would call it the pirate eye, would open. And I would turn to my husband. I was like, I don't want to go upstairs. Like, I just know, like the whole night that they would be up, you know? And we go upstairs and they just started screaming. Like, you know, it was just kind of like, and I was like, you know, that was not me doing a good job of decluttering. You know, like, I did not declutter my life there, because I didn't need all those people in my house. Like I didn't need all of that. You know,
so
I needed people to drop off.
That's also,
food,
you mentioned it before, like prepare that space from people. How do people do that nicely, in a smart way? And how do we know before we have a baby what kind of people we want in our team?
Totally.
And how do we identify these people?
That's a great. I think that one of the things that they were talking about, again, and I'm hoping we're kind of hinting at it, but I'm hoping it's becoming clear, right? Is that, you know, taking care of yourself and preparing to take care of yourself is the way that you prepare to take care of a baby, right? Because you are the instrument that will be caring for this baby. So we can't, we'll say it over and over again until it becomes like second nature. Taking care of yourself is the way you take care of your baby. Okay, so that's a basic idea. And one of the things I had read recently is this whole idea where boundaries are a wonderful self-care tool. And what I mean by that is that if you know that there is someone who is going to really look after you, I mean, like in a sincere, whether it be a friend or a family member who's going to come over and be like, oh, you want some water? Okay. Do you want some, let me make something to eat. Okay. Why don't we just hang out and watch TV together? Right? That person, they can stay all day, right? They can stay all day. They can stay as long as they want, right? Because it's great to have another pair of hands, right? Like that's fantastic, right? But if you know it's somebody who's like, oh, could you get me something to eat? Oh, you know what? Could you do this for me? Can you go and do that? Even though they're over at your house and you are the one taking care of a baby, right? You know, an hour and be like, you know, I'm really sorry. I have some people coming over, you know, in an hour, you know, do you mind? Like, you know, I'm just going to try to kind of, you know, like make it simple. You know, COVID was kind of nice for, I have to tell you, I'm going to be completely frank. I had more than one family that had a baby without COVID and a baby with COVID, and they were like, we love this COVID thing. Like, and I was like, what do you mean by that? And it was the best excuse. Like, oh, you know, 30 people want to visit me in my hospital room. Like when I like literally just gave birth like 8 hours ago. Like, oh no, you can't come because it's COVID. Like, you know, and they were like, we love COVID. I mean, this woman was like, the first time around, her boss is like staring at her. She, you know, her breast is sticking out. She's trying to breastfeed her baby, and she's like, why are you here? You're like, why are you here? So, you know, that became a great thing. Like, I don't want a lot of people at my house because of COVID, you know? And so like when the restrictions started to lift, they were like, yo, is there another, like, could you get me
come up with something else?
That could work quickly, because it gave a little bit more space to people who feel badly to tell people to leave their house but it gave them almost like a great like out, because in the end of the day, if you can't, I mean, there's just so much energy and you are sleep deprived. You probably haven't eaten as well as you should have. Like, you are not cared for. Like, to be an entertainer in your house is like crazy. It's a crazy idea.
How about family members? So Fanny and I both had that experience where we are expats, right? So
Totally.
our families are
Totally.
overseas. A lot of people in Florida have the same thing where when
Yes.
you announce that you're pregnant, people are like buying plane tickets to be like, oh, I'm going to be there on that day. And they stay for like a couple of weeks. And because that's the relationship that we have with our families.
Totally.
But how do you deal with that? Like, how do you not get tied with your family because they still want to see the baby and they can't just come for an hour here and there?
I know. And I think that is, again, again, like, I feel like ethnic or, families tend to have this little bit of an issue, like, because that is the culture, right? That, like, everyone's in the house. Now, ideally, and then I'm going to say the same thing, like, if they are people that will come and help you, it is amazing. In some ways, if you have like a family member, generally sometimes it's a mother or someone, right, who can literally care for you. Like, they have the right idea, right? And they're literally cooking for you, and they're, like, they can stay with you, like, and maybe like have a little bit of like downtime or time that, like, here, I'm going to take a walk with the baby, or I'm going to take a walk on my own. Can you watch the baby? Like, create boundaries so that you have your own time as well. And they are very helpful, then them staying with you is probably okay, is good. But if they are the type that are like, and you love them, again, you love them. And I'm not saying you don't like your family, but like, not everyone, we're not clones, like, we're not all necessarily going to like every aspect of all of our family members, right? That's just like physically impossible, right? But if you have like family members that that like are not going to be so helpful, it is going to be really hard. I think it's time to spring for the Airbnb. Like, I think it's time to like be like, you stay there like physically, because then and then maybe come over for a couple hours. But I think that would be it. Like that, and so you're here, you're with the kids, and it's not an easy conversation. I am not saying
I was about to say, I'm thinking about like people who are watching this and thinking, easier said than done, right? It's sort of sitting here, we don't have to have that conversation. But I remember you talked about in a previous episode about finding your voice as a parent. Yeah. And it feels like it ties to that, where it might be the first time that you're actually advocating for your kid, right? 100%. Because it's not just, as we said, since we are the instrument to be good with our kids, if we feel the stress from family members, if we feel like we're anxious, the kids are going to suffer from it, right, to some extent. So maybe if you have to have that hard conversation, dig deep into that. If you feel like, oh, I'm being mean to my mother-in-law, to my father, to whatever, try to say that you're speaking up for your child. And it's like, you're not doing it for you because you're selfish, because you're picky, because you're whatever. Yes. You're making sure you're all in the best environment so you can better serve your children. Right?
So, I mean, I say this, I probably try to say it at least once every time we have one of these talks, because I say it all the time. But I always tell people, because and I always remind myself of this, is that the children are born, and this is a Chinese adage, their children are born the way they are to heal the family. In the end of the day, all of us should have been brought up, or we should all be brought up, right, with the ability to advocate for ourselves, right, and to create boundaries. Now, that is a very, very new day concept, right? I mean, any ethnic, group, like, or forget anything, but any older generation, boundaries, privacy, like, I mean, I remember my mom like literally laughing at my sister when she opened up mail that was addressed to my sister, and she was like, no, she's like, all of your mail is my mail. Like, I literally, like, it was like laughable to her. So, that generation does not understand boundaries that well. And if for some, and I have to tell you, there are moments that I definitely felt like on my own, not so good at advocating for myself, not so good. But if you tell me, and I tell myself, I need to advocate for me right now, for my kid, I did it. No question. Boom. done.
Yeah.
Like literally, like you said, like that's where the strength came from. Like, so I always felt like my kids gave me that strength, right? Because I am not good. I am terrible at that, actually. I still struggle with that, trying to say, hey, you know, this is not really cool. But if I say that, hey, you know, I don't think this is really healthy for my kid in this environment, I don't flinch. I'm not flinching.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to add that, because it's a
Right?
stronger argument, and it does bring the mama bear in us of being like,
Completely.
okay, wait a minute, that's a line that
Good.
we're not going to cross, and that makes you more confident to have that conversation and to use that and getting the focus away from you.
Right.
That could be a way, you know,
Yes.
to do it.
I think that it's, you know, and I have exercised that strength. I have like taken that strength from my kids, like, you know, literally like multiple times in my life with my family and my, you know, like that, you know, I always tell parents that, you know, if you can't advocate for your children, right, who else will, right? I'll go even further. If you can't advocate for yourself, right, who else will? So this is an incredible moment where, again, preparing for your baby's arrival is the name of the talk, right? If you're sitting there and you are prego, right? Like you are going to be giving birth in the next month, you know, and you're like, I am feeling already overwhelmed, right? By knowing that like these people are coming, that person's going to want this, that person's going to, right? There are so many things that are really like kind of overwhelming me. And the baby hasn't friggin' come out yet, right?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? You know, spend a little bit of that time saying, you know, what is really important for me?
Sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. For some reason, everything crashed here.
Right, it's technology. So, yeah, I mean, I think that we were just kind of really driving home that point of finding your voice through your kids.
Exactly.
And this being the first exercise of it, honestly. You know, this is a great, you know, kind of, you know, again, we only learn through experience. But I think that you're really right to bring that up, that like, you know, in order to kind of find your own voice, you do have to make boundaries. You know, you have to kind of make the boundaries and know who is good in my space and who is probably not so good, especially when I'm very vulnerable. You know, and you know, we talk a lot about, you know, it sounds terrible, but we talk so much about like how happy the cows are when you make the milk, right? Everyone's like, you know, did people sing to them? Were they eating good grass? Were they happy? Right? So for some reason, everyone can understand, well, you know, I think the milk that comes out is better. Right?
Definitely, yeah.
But I hate to break it to you, when you are, you know, making milk, you are making that milk. So your happiness, your joy, your rest, your stress, right? All of that is very much, it is going to make that milk different, you know, and I want it to be good milk because I want you to be in a good place, but you are the source, you know, you are where it's coming from. So, you know, I think, again, you know, eat, sleep, stress, like you got to get the three basics into good alignment, you know, and have some rules of the game. And maybe you say, you know, listen, I know these people, they mean well, but like maybe I can tell them, like, is it okay if we just, you know, maybe the first month, you know, I'll send you pictures, I'll let you know, but I kind of need a month to kind of get my head back on straight. I'm not going to be such a great host. I mean, just really kind of in some ways maybe put it on yourself and be like, it's not that I don't want you to see the baby, but like, I think that I'm not going to be so like, and which is not untrue. Like, like you are going to be kind of spinning, you know, not a good time to have a dinner party. Like, it's like not the time, you know, so you're not going to be such a great company anyways, but like, you know, I just want to kind of get a hold of how we're doing at home and get our rhythm and our routine together. And we would love to have you, you know, we would love to have you come stay with us. I would love to have you, you know, visit. But I had to tell you, I mean, like bringing a new baby home back to a full house, it's a bit much.
Even for the baby though, like if it gives some argument, like the overstimulation of too many like smells and noises and voices and colors and different type of holding, like for the bonding with your baby, that might be also another argument where you're like, hey, it's not good for my child to just be, we need to connect, you know, for one-on-one before there is like 10,000 people in the room.
Yeah, it's, I think that, you know, I'm just trying to think of it, how to say it in a way that, you know, that can be delicate, you know, conversation. But I think that, again, you know, perhaps saying that, you know, I just need a little bit of space, and then we want to kind of get everything together. People are more than welcome to drop off food. I know that like making one situation, like you're more than welcome to drop off some food, and like, you know, and we can chat for like a little bit, you know, and that might be it. But like, I think that just trying to give people, like, again, everyone's anxious to help, everyone's anxious to be there, right? They don't always, people are not always like sensitive to how they might be a little bit intrusive. Say like, you know, I would love, you know, if you want to come over, drop off something, you know, and then go. That's like I would love to see you, and you can take a peek at the baby, but just say like, you know, it's going to be a lot. We know it's going to be a lot of hard work, and we may not be the best hosts, you know, for a long time. And I think
don't pick up the phone, or you don't open your text.
Yeah, right. And just, you know, it's like I mean, there has to be. I think that's another thing, is that, you know, like wherever you are, and it's hard, I know, in places that are more, you know, you know, cold, but like, you know, for those of us in Florida, like, you know, for most of the people in Florida, literally, I was like, you know, people will be like, the baby will be like a week old, and they're like, when can we leave the house and take a walk? And I'm like a week ago, like literally, like, I don't know who told you that you couldn't leave the house, but like literally, like, why have you not left the house? You know, like this is why we live here. You know,
but also, I mean, I want to bounce back on that, because being cold is not a threat for babies in this world, right? Eskimos have babies, and they kind of live in the cold all the time. So I guess it would be okay to go for a walk if you have, you know, your babies.
Bundle them up, and actually the fresh air. I mean, it's amazing. You know, they actually find, like, on a neurologic standpoint, that, like, you know, just by looking at the sky, you know, your eyes start to beat, like, in the motion of like the wind, and you connect in a way more relaxed, in a way that like no pill can do that. Like literally, like you have, you know, just taking a walk outside at again, scheduling it, right? And saying like, every day at this time, I'm going to do, scheduling that time is really important to protect, again, like kind of your mental wellness. You know, somebody asked about the pets. I have heard lots of incredible work that people are doing, but also like, so if you Google it, I know it sounds rich, but there's all this work where, like, you know, you take like a cloth from like the baby's, a bassinet that has some of where the baby's, you know, kind of where the baby is sleeping, and have like the pet smell it, you know, start to get used to it. I will tell you a little bit of a boundary for me. The truth of the matter is that we don't love the co-sleeping, just because with big pillows and big blankets, there is that SIDS risk, which is very real. And I mean, listen, there is a certain amount where the American Academy of Pediatrics realizes that if you're breastfeeding, you will end up bringing the baby into bed with you. And, you know, so that's neither here nor there, but they'll say, like, literally, I don't want these big fluffy pillows. I don't want the big, you know, fluffy comfort. I mean, that can be, again, a SIDS risk. You cannot have a dog or a cat that sleeps in the bed normally, in the bed too, with your baby. It's just too many factors on many levels, besides the fact that the dander that you might be okay with, but it could make the baby quite congested, right? Besides that, but also, I mean, there is a real so, you know, if you're sitting there, again, you've got 36 weeks, right? You've got 4 more weeks to do. I'm going to probably put that on your to-do list, that you need to get the pet. And ideally, I would have loved the pet even out of the bedroom, right? Because, again, the sleeping space, when you're walking around and there's like pet dander, you know, in general I say it too, but if there's pet dander, you know, you're walking around. But if you have pet dander on a pillow that you sleep on for 8 hours, you just put that cat and shove it in your face for 8 hours. So it's like just not a great kind of like ventilated space that you need baby.
So back
and like,
back to point one of like making space, that would also mean less maintenance for you, right? Another thing for advocating for yourself is that you won't have time to change those pillows or vacuum as much, or like do your regular cleaning that you do with pets.
Right.
So maybe, you know, reclaiming that space and time is another way to prepare. So it's in line with everything we talked about before, right?
Yeah, it's totally in line. And just the idea of just kind of like really sitting in the room, sitting in the space and say like, what does this room need? You know what, I might need, if I'm sitting there and I'm on a rocking chair and feeding the baby, I might need a light, you know? Okay, is there a plug here? Where do we move it? Again, you have not heard me say anything about being pretty, right? Like, this is about efficiency, like literally like looking at it as a workstation. You are going to be the assembly line worker of poop. And so literally,
well, on that line, since we're talking about it, we couldn't, you know, stop it without mentioning how we streamline, you know, the poop and pee business. So at La Petite Creme, we have this French lotion, which is traditional of how they change a diaper in France. When you have a baby in France, they don't give you baby wipe, they give you a bottle of lotion, and that's how you clean and you protect your baby's skin. And we decided with Fanny to bring that to the US when we couldn't find it for our own children. And it does streamline the process because it's one single product. It cleans, it protects. So next time it cleans, like next time pee or poop comes out, it's not sitting on that skin, and it's making that whole process like faster. It's one bottle that's easily accessible. So
and I
one
think
less
that's
thing to worry about.
and so then you could see why, like, as I'm advocating for all this, and then when I heard, you know, you guys are my patients, you know, you're talking about your product, I was like, yes, that's what, you know, that's what I'm talking about. Like, because the more that you can have less that you're carrying, less that you are like having around you, just basic stuff where you just take the lotion and you just kind of, what I liked about it is the idea that you wipe it, and then if it's clean, that stays on the skin. Because imagine you literally, when you're sitting in a diaper, you're literally like taking, and especially with these absorbent diapers, you know, that they're just kind of hyper, you're literally taking like moisture and putting it right back on the skin. When they sweat into it, in Miami, it's a real problem. You know, they sweat into the diaper, right into the skin. And so that skin's like, how am I supposed to have any protection? That's why being able to streamline, a lot of people don't always put emollient on after, you know, and that's another step, but you really should, because there's too much irritation, and then they're like, oh, wow, I'm so surprised, now I have a diaper rash. And it's like, if I put that on your skin, and like, it sounds terrible, if I wet your underwear and put it on you, right, and had you walk around for 3 hours, guess what would you have in 3 hours? You would have a rash, right? So it's that kind of thing where like, it just, that's what a diaper is, you know? So it's again, just trying to like, and I think that's good. I think that like it kind of goes like full circle, is that this whole idea where like your physical surroundings, you physically taking care of yourself, is like kind of emotionally, mentally, like trying to like declutter your head, right? Declutter your influences, declutter your voices, declutter all of these other things that can be so distracting. And they even get worse when you're sleep deprived. The distractions, it's really hard to focus on like what you're doing in your life when you are so kind of consumed with like eat, sleep, right? You know, poop. I mean, it's like, it's really like, we cannot, I'm not trying to scare people, right? I'm just saying that like, for what you need to get done, you have to have clarity.
And maximize your energy, because you're only going to have so much, and you have to make sure it's on point, and you don't want to have to shuffle through 5 different things to access your bed.
Right. It's really, my husband would always get mad at me because when the kids were young, I mean, you know, that was what I was, you know, I'd schlep around everything, right? Like I would have these bags and he would be like, he's like, what do refugees take around with them? Like what is the most basic? Why do you have to have like 10 of these, like 10 of these? And it's that kind of thing where like you feel nervous. You know, that's when babies are rushed. I mean, they have like everything, you know, you feel like you need all these things. And then by the second kid, you're like, no, just give me this, thank you, I'm out. Like literally.
And maybe we can close on that. When your baby is born, the one thing that they need is you, right? Is because the one you mentioned, like a stroller, you have your arms. Like the body and life is designed that they could survive of, you know, being in your arms, sleeping. They don't move at that time. I didn't realize that when I had a baby. Like they could sleep on the floor for like a few days. They don't move. So all they need is your arms and your brain to be there, right?
Like less is more. Less is more.
Yeah.
So how to prepare to circle back? How do we prepare for baby? Make space right now. Work on space. Push the space, and then you can embrace that baby and have this wonderful experience.
But I think that's beautiful what you said. Like all these things that we're talking about is ways for you to be more present. That in the end of the day, you're absolutely right. All the baby needs is you. They do not need a car baby wipe warmer.
Okay, we'll scratch that off our baby registry to that. The lobby for baby wipes car warmer is going to be calling us and be like, oh, sale just went down. We'll deal with that call.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perlman. Thank you, Fanny. Thank you, everyone who watched. And then we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Moms Talks from by La Petite Creme.
Yeah, and from now, happy holidays to everyone, because next time will be in 2024.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.